Welcome to the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast with your host, Mike DeHaan and Dan Austin. From wins, losses, horror stories, and tactics for optimizing your business, Mike and Dan take a real, uncensored deep dive into the ins and outs of running a full-time real estate investment and wholesaling business.
What's going on, guys? On this episode of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast, we have Cory and Ryan from the Weekly Juice podcast, which is a pretty good podcast that I stumbled upon recently. I was on this one a couple of weeks ago, and right before me, you guys had the old famous Brandon Turner. So I feel like, that definitely elevated me as a podcaster a little bit, that I was following him. But you guys are some young investors, and you were working on a bunch of different interesting things. You have this podcast that you run, and one of the things I love about this is you're obviously a real estate focused podcast, but you guys kind of have your hands in a bunch of different stuff, from, obviously the podcast itself to you're doing like some YouTube stuff, you're doing some Amazon stuff, you're working it all into your real estate investments, it looks like, and you guys still have a W-2. And I just feel like when it comes to the real estate space as a whole, you guys are kind of some up and comers, and you got a lot going on. And I just thought it'd be great to have you guys on and hear about what you're doing. And I know you have a couple of interesting projects you're working on as well. So I'll let you guys introduce
Mike,
yourself.
thanks for the intro. Thanks for having us. Would you have rather been before or after Brandon? I don't know which one would be better. I guess maybe before would have been better.
After.
I think
I agree.
I want to be after, because he's gonna bring a bunch of new listeners who are in turn gonna stick around for the second one.
And Mike is sole goal in life is to be famous.
Well, the good thing is
he wants to be famous.
Yeah, absolutely.
You are after.
Yeah.
So.
Speaking of that, if you check out my OnlyFans,
I did subscribe to that, actually. Pretty good content. Pretty cheap too, so I appreciate the nice discount.
But yeah, man. So
we were actually joking about that. We were like, what we should do is we should run like a mastermind community through OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Right? Because like the whole thing is meant to be a way to create a subscription service. It doesn't have to be porn. People have used it that way, but you can go and you could run like a mastermind through there and have exclusive education.
There was a funny story. I don't know if you guys follow Barstool, but they have the Mean Girls podcast, and one of the gals tried to sign up for an OnlyFans, not like every other woman would want, like, that signs up for OnlyFans, and they denied her. And she's like, what the hell? Like, I'm not trying to produce that kind of content. And they denied her, but they're trying to get away from that type of brand. I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I thought the whole shtick was like, I don't know, like 6 months ago, they tried to shut it down. They said no, like X-rated content or whatever it's going to be. And then everyone went bonkers. I'm like, all right, we're out. We're not doing this anymore. And then immediately they switched fields. They're like, just kidding. We're going back. Like, stay with us, please.
Yeah.
Because that's their
exactly. That's their thing. That is their thing.
Yeah, but
so,
I guess
shirtless masterminds.
Yeah, we should probably intro ourselves. Though. But anyway, my name's Cory. This is my partner Ryan. I'll let him intro himself. But again, thanks for having us. We're excited to be on here. We do a lot of interviews, and being on the other side of the coin is pretty cool. But we're in the Philadelphia area. Ryan and I met like 10, 12 years ago now in college. And we decided about 4 years ago that we were going to get in this real estate investing journey together and be partners. And it's been nothing but sunshine and rainbows, right? That's the only thing that happens in real estate investing. So,
right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if it's been for the last 2 years, it's highly possible that's true. I think it's been sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, I guess it's been less than 4 years.
Yeah, he jumped the gun. We've actually only been 2 years investing, 2.5.
Right. We live together, so that was how I was blending it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cute.
Lovebirds over here.
Really
so roommates out of college, and then when you kind of have the bug to talk personal finance, the FIRE movement, right? Financial independence, retire early. There's only a couple people that you can talk to in your close circle about that. And you guys would probably understand that, like talking real estate, talking investments, like talking money has just been kind of, I don't know, it's not really been a thing for certain generations. So for us, we're just sitting on the couch, a couple nights after work, and we're just like, start talking about it. We want to like explore it further. And we're realizing we can't talk about this with anyone else. And then the rabbit hole, as soon as you do some research, you get down the rabbit hole, you find like Mr. Money Mustache, you're finding Scott Trench, and then it jumps into Bigger Pockets. And then that's kind of our inception into real estate. We just went down the Bigger Pockets, like rabbit hole of investing. And then, read some of the books, got hooked, decided to become business partners, jumped in on a couple of deals together, fast forward now, we have 8 units together. We're in 2 other big syndication deals. So we have about 50, I guess all in on 58 units, partners slash
LP
LPs.
slash I guess the main owners of them. So
Yeah.
it's been it's a lot of fun, and talking to guys like you is the best part. So there we go.
This Mike, this is creepy because their story mirrors ours like way too closely. Like, well, Mike and I went to college together 10, 12 years ago. Yeah. Wow. Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah. We had the same sort of things. I actually used to work for Dan at the company he works still works for, actually. And literally I would go and talk to him, and he was my boss. I was like, bro, I can't do this bullshit. Like, seriously, we don't have to. We can go and do something else.
That's funny.
But
that's hilarious. It's like we're in our 9-to-5s too. We still have our jobs, and it's both of our 9-to-5s are great to us, right? They've helped us get loans, they've helped us support our own families, and we make a good living. We're both in sales, but you do get that itch every now and then. It's like, man, if we went out on our own and we left that, maybe we'd have some short-term pain, but there would be long-term achievement behind that. It's just about when to do it. So it's funny that you guys were in that situation. And then, you broke out. So it's all, when to do it is a big question, but we like them for now, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's never a perfect time. I mean, you guys know from when I was on yours, I kind of jumped the gun early and I just called it quits, which, I wouldn't necessarily recommend for most people. But, if you're the kind of person that you believe in yourself and you're going to get it done. I remember way back when I did that, and it wasn't, I hope that I can figure out. I would always just think like, man, when I'm making $10,000 a month, like life's going to be so much better. And that was always just my mentality. But the problem is that becomes sort of, what's the right word? It never ends, because now I'm like, man, when I make $100,000 a month,
right?
Will be so much better.
Right. Well, and it's like challenging, but I think if you're to do both, but I think if your mindset is right, like all these stuff you do outside is like your investment, and you're investing in yourself, and it snowballs. And then at some point you look back and you're like, why am I working this job when I've got this whole snowball that's over 4, 5, 6 years has created like this massive wealth train.
Yeah. We kind of look at it as like a false summit almost, where you just keep hitting these new milestones, and then you start looking up and you're like, wait, I thought I was going to be at the top of this mountain here. And then you see another one that you want to go chase, and then you see another one. But the cool thing is we're just like, all right, let's just do things we really like to do every day. And then our mountain, the whole thing will just become the journey. Hopefully, I guess that's the whole idea, is that if you do something you love, it's like you don't have to worry about the achievements, kind of just fall into place. Hopefully, if you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. Right. To that point, I think you guys would probably agree with this too. It's like what you're doing now gives you a little bit more purpose. Like, I love the 9-to-5 is great. Like he said, it supports the family and all those things, but to wake up every day and have this purpose and drive and like excitement for something that's your own and your little baby, that is, I think, what helps drives entrepreneurs outside of their why, right? It's kind of just like what gets you out of bed every morning. You're like, I'm like excited to see, hey, did our audience grow? How, like, are people taking in the most recent show? Who are we going to get to talk to tonight that's going to have, we're going to be able to benefit them, but they're also going to be able to benefit us and be in our network and help leapfrog us to the next level. And though it may be a false summit, it's like, I date it back to like playing video games or playing a sport in college or something like that. It's like, you want to level up your game and you want to pass the next level and keep going. There's no perfect end game here, but it's fun. And like, I think the 9-to-5 for some people is amazing. They like that stability, but there's some people like us out there that you're just searching for more, and you've seen someone else create a life of their own and be able to control their schedule and their time. And that's what excites me. And it's like, it gets me out of bed. I'm like, dude, like, let's go get this thing. And it's this intrinsic pull. It's hard to put it into words sometimes, right? Because people ask your why, and you can talk about legacy, talk about family and your kids and all that stuff. But sometimes it comes down to just you, and it's the game. You just like that thirst for the game you want to win. It's fun, and doing it with a partner, that's the best part. We talked about this in our episode, I think, Mike, but having Cory, it's like you're almost living through each other, and like you want to benefit the other person, and seeing them excited when you do something together, that makes you feel even better than doing it yourself. You don't have to, like, have you ever been on a trip or something like that, and like you're just by yourself, or you want to like share it with someone else. You're like, look at this amazing place. That's why I'm taking a picture of it, to show someone else. But they're not here with me, so it just doesn't feel as fulfilling. So that's kind of how I view our partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always been a big thing that we've talked about is, there's some people that like we've been asked by a lot of people actually, like, why do you have a partner? You got to split it 50-50. It's like,
yeah, it's way cool. It's cool to make money. It's cool to make money and make accomplishments, but it's way cooler to do it with other people.
Exactly. 100%. Abundance mindset too. There's plenty to go around if you're doing things right. If your business is so paltry that you have to really be worried about, your partner making half of it, you're probably not running a great business, or you're
and also like we look at it like, okay, what are the chances that there's a good chance that I may be having a bad day and Rye's having a good day. He can pick me up, right? And if we're both having great days, it's amazing, right? You're on a cloud nine. The only thing we want to avoid is if we're both having bad days, which can, every now and then it can happen. But I think it's more uplifting and more like, oh, there's more ideas on the table. There's more thoughts in like, how can this play out? And like things I don't think about, he thinks about, and vice versa. And, we've been told our whole lives not our whole lives, but the last 5 years that partners were a bad idea. They're like, you're going to hate each other eventually. Like, you're going to hate each other. I'm like, dude, I don't know what type of partnerships that you got into, these people that are telling us, but I could just never see that happening. It's just because you have too much respect for the person that you're working with. And when you win, they win. I feel like it's the same for you guys. Like that's at least, how I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we have a friendship beyond our partnership, and that usually like we put that first. And that's how Mike and I also personally, that's how we operate our business is like, we're not out there to like hurt other people or take advantage of other people, do things unethically. And so that's how our partnership is too, right? We're honest with each other. It's like, hey, Mike, are you upset at me today?
Yeah, some of those days every now and then, but I can always tell. It's pretty.
It's funny knowing each other for this long, and you guys are probably can the same exact thing. It's like when to push and when to stop, because at that, even though sometimes you kind of have to push on certain things, that's where it gets dicey. You're like, dude, I need you to do this, and I know I'm supposed to be doing something, so I know he's giving me the eye, like I got to get it done. But it's just at the end of the day, you're gonna do it. Yeah. Like the thing is, we're not the type of guys that are just. We're type A, if you probably could tell by now, but it's like if something needs to get done, it's getting done. And I don't have to worry about, like, for example, a task that needs to be done. I know if I ask Cory to do this or if he's scheduled to do it, he's going to do it. And that's how I feel about me. Like, I already know I'm going to do it. It's on my checklist. I check it off. Kind of goes to like our bank statements. And I think we may have talked about this in a previous episode or something like that. But it's like, I trust Cory he's seen my social security number. He's seen my tax, whatever you want to call it.
Returns.
So tax returns, W-2s, all that. But also we're transferring money in between each other's bank accounts. I'm like, dude, he's like, I got to do this. I'm like, all right, gotta do it, dude. And I'll check it, at the end of the month when we reconcile things, but I trust him unequivocally. And that's hard to find for some people in partnerships, right? We're all fortunate enough to have known each other for 10 plus years and have a relationship outside the business that kind of brought us into business together. But a lot of people are searching for that, right? And they're like, how do I find a great partner? I have no one to talk to about this. And so I think it's important to sometimes talk about the ways people can find partnerships. And a lot of it's forums. A lot of things are online now. Like everything's at your fingertips, and it takes time, but we've seen people in DMs, they've met each other in DMs or online forums, and they became business partners, and it's been working out. Sometimes it doesn't work that great. But it's kind of nice to touch on it, because it's hard to give people like the X's and O's on how to find one,
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good transitionary question there too, is, looking at partnerships. I feel like that's a great theme for this episode as well, is how do you guys structure things in your partnership? Because something that, Dan and I, we are always sort of working on is, we have pretty distinct roles in our business, in our wholesale business especially, but we also have that's our singular business. And then, honestly, when it comes to the podcast stuff, I run with it for the most part. Dan's the support guy who comes in and helps keep things afloat on a general basis. It's kind of like my passion project. But then when it comes to some of like the renovations and flips and stuff like that, that's more Dan's passion project a little bit. So he runs with those a lot more. So it kind of balances out. But with you guys have your podcast, you have your investments, so you're doing like some YouTube automation stuff. You have a bunch of different things listed in your different profiles. How do you guys split that and divide the tasks and the roles? Like, do you guys have like a meeting and you like make a list and you divvy out tasks? You guys kind of just have like your own specialties that you sort of intuitively know which things you're going to be
think
doing? What does that
it's
look like?
an ever evolving thing for us, right? But I can tell you, like, unequivocally, there's 3 to 5 things that I'm good at and 3 to 5 things that Rye's good at. For example, like, I'm much more of a numbers guy. I'm a little bit more analytical. Rye's a little bit more on the creative side, like the design and the aesthetics. Like, so a lot of the podcast content, that what it visually looks like is like what he wants it to look like. And I don't have any problem just letting him run with that, right? I may decide to throw some numbers in there. I'm more doing a lot of the accounting stuff that we're doing. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to like the furthest vision ahead that we have. And if we're both on track with that, I trust him with anything on that side. But for the most part, we do divvy up a lot of tasks. Like every expense and every profit is split 50-50. Like that's just how we've always done it. Obviously, there's only two of us. But I don't know. Do you have anything to add on specific like tasks? I think that the creative and the numbers thing is like just one aspect of it.
So it's I try to visualize it in more of like a flow chart, which is, we have a lot of moving pieces here. So you just think of like Ryan and Cory at the top and it flows down. We have our Weekly Juice podcast. And it's a 3-headed beast. So it's Cory, myself, and our producer Jake. So there's 3 of us there. That's one business. Then our real estate is another arm, and that's Cory and I. So that's a separate silo. And then another business is our e-commerce. So that's Amazon and YouTube. And so there's 3 separate silos really. And then if you want to branch out even further, Cory has his own W-2. I have my own W-2. We go from there. So it can get complicated if you don't separate everything. So everything's in its own LLC. We're 50-50 partners, and then we're 33% partners on the podcast. And then really it's just like, as you can kind of see where my brain's going, but like it goes down to the systems that you have built out for each. So in the beginning for, let's just talk about our properties. Like we used a property management software, Rent Ready. They're amazing. So it basically is like we uploaded all of our property information in there, and like a couple clicks of a button, it helps you manage screen tenants, all that stuff. And then it would, on the back end, Cory would do the bookkeeping, and he would keep all that together and then send it off to the CPA at the end of the year. And we would, we share the bank accounts so you can all see it there. On the other side, you have the podcast, which it's got its like hands in a lot of different things. It's touching the e-commerce a little bit, and then it's also touching real estate. So e-commerce is set up the same way as our properties are, right? It's just the LLC, and then you drop down, share a bank account. What I would recommend to profit wise for everybody is like always put 30% away of whatever you're bringing in for taxes. Just, you're obviously going on CPA and they're going to teach you tax planning if you have a good one, and then reconcile at the end of the year. But we don't touch 30% of whatever we bring in no matter what, purely based on, we don't want to have to pay out of our pocket at the end of the year for what we owe in taxes, right? Uncle Sam's got his hand always in your back pocket. And then we split the rest 50-50, depending on the business that it's in. And then
the real estate we don't touch.
Touch.
That's all just going back to, the cash flow building up in an account, and our portfolio is not big enough for us to live off of or anything like that. Yeah.
And I think the probably the most intricate is the content. And you guys know this as content creators, podcast owners yourselves, and co-hosts. How do you get out the right content at the right time, and what do people want these days? Instagram, YouTube, they all keep changing their algorithms. So we have to play to that. TikTok's this thing's like, hey, you have way more chance to go viral on TikTok than any of the other platforms just based the way their algorithm is. So you have to play to all these things, and you can't repurpose videos from Instagram on TikTok because then you're not going to hit the algorithm, because they know there's like a metadata or something like that. It's so intricate. But we have this one program we use just for any other content creators that are listening to this. We use Asana, and it's this really amazing platform where you can go, everyone can log in with the username. Project management. Yeah. And it's color coordinated, and it's like Ryan's doing graphic this day, Cory's doing a reel this day, and you can batch your content and preload it all into Asana, and we know exactly who's posting it on what day, and it's assigned out. And as you can tell, we have if we're not working, the business, it's very much active. It's not super passive, which we're trying to transition to. And I think the next stage for us is to hire an intern or hire a VA, because we can post a Loom video of us doing things and how we create and how we do or manage our business. That can be on the real estate, the podcast, or the e-commerce side. But we're type A. I told you guys at the beginning, and it's so hard to let go. It's like, is it going to be efficient? Is it going to be successful? And I know it's a mouthful, but I just know a lot of people want to know behind the scenes stuff. And it's what I wish I heard on a podcast or learned earlier on, is like everything comes down to the system. And once the system's filled out, it's up to you to implement it. And if you're type A go-getter and you're going to do the work, the system's the best thing to have as your anchor point. And then you can just drive forward.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're definitely way more organized than Dan.
That's good to know, man. I never know if we're organized or not.
That's my OCD.
Yeah, you're organized. Yeah.
You sound like you're way on top of it, man. We didn't even have a bookkeeper. like a proper bookkeeper until like a few weeks ago, and like he comes in and he's like, "What the hell have you guys been doing?" I'm like, "I don't know."
Just
But in our defense though, Mike, you created that. Like it's an accountant that's like he's starting his bookkeeping firm for us, right? Because we're such a shit show.
Yeah, literally, he's a friend of mine. Yeah, that I basically went and was like, "Yeah, you know this job you don't really like? Here's how you could not do that anymore." And he just basically has run with it now, and he's like building this business. He's trying to sort of figure out how to bootstrap from the ground up. But we're like, I almost selfishly put that thought in his head, because I was like, I need you to come and do this for me, and then you can take that knowledge and go start your business. And he's just totally run with it, which has been great. But point being though, like organization, the fact you guys have all that with the content and you're managing all those different branches that well is pretty good, because like a lot of our stuff is definitely, which I think a lot of I think there's two kinds of entrepreneurs. There's people that are kind of like you guys that are very much organized and have the structure and all those sort of things. And then there's people that are like us. They're just like all over the place.
Yeah, but you guys have good problems to have, because you're focused focused on the number one thing, which is bringing in the revenue, and then all of the other things can sort themselves out. Right. We may have spent too much time on the systems, and now we're like, okay, shit, we got to go make this money, which we're doing. But 2022 has been the year where it's really ramped up for us, and that's because I think we got to take this active income that we're making and pump it into passive income, and then make more active income to pump it in more passive income. So 2022 has been a big year for us, but you guys have, I think you're doing all right.
Yeah, you definitely are. I mean, we're all, it's business is business, right? Like there's so many different styles of it, and you can kind of make it your own. I think the most important thing to talk about too is, like, you just talked about bookkeeping, right? We have all these branches out everywhere. You guys have this crazy business going. I believe, Dan, you still have your W-2. Is that true? So having a CPA is amazing, but I think for us as entrepreneurs, it's even more important to have a CPA that's a tax planner that can like help you divvy out your year. And it's like, okay, you guys you're targeted to bring in 200 grand for this year in this silo. You should now spend $65,000 of this, because if not, you're giving it to Uncle Sam. And we're like, dude, this is a whole new world for us. We don't have someone in this bucket. We have interviewed a bunch, and we're going to move forward literally next month after a closing, because we want everything in its silo. As you can tell, super organized guys, but like, then we can hand it off, be like, hey, here's what we have. Go review our last 2 years of returns. Tell us what we did right. Tell us what we did wrong. And then how can you save in the last quarter of the year? What can we save? What can we spend on? We talk about, you're here, all entrepreneurs. Hey, this specific write-off. I got this G-Wagon. I got this. My laptop was free. All this stuff. It's like, all right, well then how the hell does this actually work? So we need someone to hold our hand. And I think that I'd recommend that for every entrepreneur. Is like, at some point you're going to hit an impasse where you need to just spend the extra money, dude, and pay for it, because it's going to save you so much more on the back end and free up your time. For me, I hate the bookkeeping side, and I know he's been able to handle it.
I don't like it. I just do it. But but yeah,
sounds like us. Sounds like us.
Yeah, I'm ready to hand it over. So
yeah, and on that same note too, if you're going to do that in the real estate realm, definitely do everything you can to become a real estate professional. That was a big thing for us this past year. Would you be a real estate professional this past year, Dan? I did after lots of and I've gotten a little bit of flack from other friends of mine on this, because they don't believe I can do it, but our accountant felt confident that I would be okay in an audit situation, having a non-real estate W-2 job, based on my ability to prove that I work more hours in real estate than W-2, which is typically 2,080 hours. So I have to prove that I work 2,081 hours in real estate. And I have a pretty dang good paying W-2, but I'm pretty sure I'm making more in real estate if I actually call their bookkeeper. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to make this year, but like, it's going to be more. Plus, if you look at all the calendars and all the stuff that I'm doing, mileage trackers and methods for tracking my work, our accountant felt confident. I mean, sure, I might be crying here in a couple of years when I have a tax bill I have to pay from getting audited. And the IRS does now have $80 billion to spend on auditing you. So it's the worst time for me to try to do this, but that has saved my bacon, because I actually was carrying forward quite a few losses because I couldn't, we were buying a ton of real estate and I couldn't write off all that depreciation. So those were carrying forward. And so that helped me write off a pile of income last year.
And then this year it'll help me write off quite a bit too.
So Dan, the real estate professional like
I think
that,
last year.
essentially you have to be,
Yeah.
you're saying that you're working 40 hours, whatever it is, 40 hours in your day job, but 40 and then another 40 as a real estate professional. That's what gives, or 41 a week, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
40 exactly. Or 40 point whatever divided by 52. Yeah. Basically you have to work the exact amount because the rule is that you have to work, I believe it's like 760 hours in real estate if you don't have another W-2 job. And they have some specifications. There's like, I don't know, like a list of things that they say count and the list of things that say that don't count. Like it's funny enough, like doing repairs on a rental property count, but I don't believe being a real estate agent and like writing an offer counts or something silly like that. I don't, somebody fact check me on that. It's something silly. But if you do have another source of income, you just have to work more in real estate and a minimum of 760 and just document it.
Okay. Interesting that. I mean, maybe handing it over to our property manager probably took those hours away from us, right? Just because we would be, we would either way, we'd be hiring out contractors. We wouldn't be doing, we're not the guys to do the work. Anyway.
Well, I'm just thinking like, does your podcast or content creation at all flow into like the real estate professional? Because all you're talking about is real estate and like going to each other.
I think if you could connect the dots somehow, but if you can't connect the dots, like pure content creation is not going to do it. But if you connected like that content creation to a meeting that you then did a joint venture with somebody, which we've done before, like those hours then would count, but maybe not the actual 1 hour you did the podcast.
Very
Got
cool.
it. Okay.
What do you do? Not to flip the script on you guys. I'm just curious. What do you guys use for tracking? Do you use Mile IQ and then some for your miles and anything else for just how do you track that you're a real estate professional? That's hard.
Yeah, I use Mile IQ. That's a good one. And because within our business, I don't do it as much anymore, but I drove around a lot between walking properties and checking in on projects and all that. And that's cool for time tracking too, because if you're driving 2 hours a day for, you're running to projects, doing whatever, meetings. And then I use Google Calendar to do like meeting tracking and time tracking as well. So if I have a meeting on there, that's a document that shows, hey, you worked in real estate this many hours that week. And my next iteration of that is to have our VA make sure that that's documented like really well and that I hit 2,081 hours, that I'm not overlooking things.
Very cool.
Got it.
Did you hire, the only reason I'm asking this is definitely selfish, but have you guys already hired a VA and like what site, if you did, what site did you use?
Yeah, I'll let Mike handle that. We got a lot of VAs.
Yeah, we got a shit ton of VAs, man. Most of our admin staff, both on the podcast and in the company, in our investment company, are virtuals. So, we have a handful of Filipinos from admins to lead managers. We have a web developer that's, I guess as we'd say, they're all VAs. They're virtual employees, right? So like they're not like a low cost VA necessarily. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But like our web developer, he's like high skill. He's from Romania. But he's like a proper like trained developer. We pay him a salary. We have him on staff. Like we have our social media manager who's from India. We have a copywriter that we work with on contract that's from Russia. What else have we had? We've had people from like Central America, all over the place.
Look at you guys bringing the world together. It's great.
I know we hit the diversity numbers really easily every year.
It's very important.
Yeah. It was funny. There was a day not too long ago. I like literally over the course of an hour and a half, I had 4 meetings, and I had a meeting with a guy in the Philippines, a guy in Nicaragua, a guy in Romania, and a guy in India. Like
it's amazing.
All from my office here. And I was like this is the crazy time that we live in, that I can do that. And
it is insane. The other thing is like the privacy. I'm curious about this too. And I'm sure listeners are. Do you share your passwords with them? And how do you find someone that you trust to be able to be like, hey, here you go. Here's the keys to one side of my business. And you have access to going in there just to make sure the information's protected. I don't know if there's anything specific you do, but that's definitely going to be a speed bump for us. We're kind of protective of our assets,
Yeah. I mean, we're not giving them like access to like our cash, like they're not able to go and pull out, they make a bank withdrawal or something like that. But they go into our our database and, they have like a list of our potential leads, things like that. I mean, they don't really have anything they can do with that. Anybody can go pull that stuff. So I guess we don't have anything that I'm super worried about. We've had like virtual bookkeepers and things like that have a little bit more access to like our financial information, but
they can't really do anything with it.
Like, yeah, I mean, here's the thing though, like, especially when it comes to Filipinos, if you're bringing on Filipino VAs, like a lot of them are college educated. They like went to VA school to learn how to be a virtual assistant. Yep. So like they're professionals. It's not like you're hiring some dude that's like in some hut that is like hacking in through Starlink or something to work.
That puts it into perspective.
They're actually
because I'm picturing the hut. I'm like, man, like,
no.
I don't know what this guy's doing.
Like for context, like our last bookkeeper was a certified accountant in the Philippines, like really nice lady, worked for the government in the Philippines as an accountant. And she just did this as a side hustle. She'd wake up at like 4 a.m. to do our books. Right. And then we would remote desktop her in, and then we could see all of her hours and all that stuff while she remoted in. So like, there's nothing she could do to like, other than, I guess, just not do anything. And then we just fire her because we would know she didn't do anything.
Love it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the bigger thing is, just like every other employee, you set guidelines on what they need to do, expect time and all that sort of stuff, and they'll follow it for the most part. And then, after 3 months, just like every employee, I start to get burned out, and they're like, "Is this my life now?" And you have to do a check-in, get them kicked in the ass, and they're good for another month and a half, and then that's just how it works with every employee, whether they're American or not.
Yeah. I don't know. We've had a really good, and Mike is the guy. Like Mike could start a whole podcast around virtuals because he really, Mike just, I know enjoys this, but like, we have like good relationships with these guys, like in gals, like they're just like on our team. You wouldn't know that they didn't work for us, like in the US.
Well, Mike, we'll be picking your brain.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people get held up on as well, is they treat them different than they do normal employees. Like it's funny, even in GoBundance, some of these guys they'll be like, "Yeah, I brought on a VA. I have him hired for 40 hours a week, but he's only working 30. Does anybody want him for an extra 10?" I'm like, "Bro, you're paying him like $5 an hour.
Yeah,
just let him fuck off for the other 10 hours. You think that your secretary isn't doing that? She's been on Facebook.
Exactly.
Like, don't worry about it." They're doing the job, true. And that's what matters.
Good perspective. I like that.
So anyway, I want to transition here really quick. I want to talk about the interesting real estate deal you guys are working on that you sort of talked about when I was on your show, called a Burr B&B. And I thought that was kind of an interesting concept. You guys, have a little bit of a raise going for it. I want to dive into that.
Yeah, I can start, and I can definitely add in here. So we have a couple projects going on, but the one specifically that you're referring to is actually a 43-unit property, and it's almost like a commune in a way, where there's like a big 18-unit long-term rental complex that's on the property, and then there's a bunch of bungalows like kind of like that's surrounding this area that's kind of on like a campground, right? So you have the opportunity to take this place that has a lot of actually long-term tenants in there. I think the entire thing is long-term right now. Our team is going to keep some of the long-term, the big 20-unit property long-term, and then turn all of these bungalows on the outside to like really high-end, kind of this mountain cabin vibe feeling, short-term rental escape, right? And then you'll have we're going to put in like bocce ball and all of these, outside grills and really cool things that people can come. They can access it on Airbnb, Verbo, but they're taking these units that are really just 1 and 2 beds right now and turning them into like really, really cool, getaways for whether it's a weekend or a week. And we figured out that the Burr B&B, you're making so much more money on short-term rentals right now. And these things are already occupied long-term in a great area, that there's a new casino being built in, that you have lake activities, you have, snowboarding in the mountain activities in the winter. So it's just a cool project we're LPs on the deal, but we've just done a lot of research on it, and it's really, really a popular area that's kind of up and coming. So yeah. Did I answer your question there?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, a little bit. So I guess where does the Burr aspect come into it? So the biggest thing that you're doing here is you're increasing the value of the whole thing by adding in all these bungalows, and that's how you're going to recover all the capital. It's almost
Correct.
kind
Yeah.
of
So like just to give you some rough numbers, the property is worth like 4.3 million, and there is, I believe, going to be $600,000 of renovations that are going into taking these properties and turning them into, they're in okay condition right now, but they're going to be all of these bungalows are going to be completely flipped into really high end, new finishes, new furniture, fully furnished apartments that you'll be able to increase not only the revenue, but the value of the property. And then hopefully you will be able to refinance, our team will, that is, refinance in about 18 to 24 months. And the goal is to get the property to be worth around 600,000, 6.25. So you have that instant equity, not instant, but you have that equity in there after you put, about $600,000 of renovations in. And there's a really great construction team that our team has partnered with. So yeah, that's the long and short of it. So there's the Burr aspect: buy, rent, rehab, refinance. Hopefully we do repeat it, right? And then the B&B, right? The Airbnb aspect.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. How do you guys have any insight on how you're going to be able to secure the financing with the short-term cash flow like that? Because I know short-term rentals, when it comes to getting loans, is always a little bit interesting with lenders. I don't know if you have like a relationship, or because of like the size of the property, if maybe it's more doable with that. Because I know with single family homes anyway,
Yeah, they won't do any burrs on singles.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. So again, we're the LPs in the project, so our operator would give you the best answer on this. But I know to start, they're actually going through a process of doing seller financing right now. So they're able to seller finance the at least for a period of time until they figure out the bank financing. But I don't know if you have anything to add on that. Yeah, I think we've heard this a number of times too, because we actually just got a second home loan, 10% down vacation rental home loan on a single family residence, and we've heard that it's very difficult to get them for bigger properties, or maybe not even possible at all to get them. You definitely can't get a 10% down. But so long and short is that they're doing seller financing.
Yeah, and you got that on a purchase though, right? Not
Say
a
that again?
refinance. Oh, sorry. I think there's a delay there. You got it on a purchase
Correct,
though, right?
yeah.
Not on a refinance.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because the refinance is where they get funny. I've heard a lot of people doing the 10% down, like second home or vacation home ones for purchases. But banks are weird, man, when it comes to refinances. Like, you can literally show them the exact value that you've added, what it should be worth, all this sort of stuff. And they're always just like, I don't know. Like, it seems risky now because you've already bought it. Like, I don't know why they view that as.
I think the interesting aspect of this is that a big portion of it we're keeping as long-term rentals. So I think that will hopefully enhance the banks, like their tolerance for this, where of the 43 units, about 20 of them are long-term. So there's always this kind of built in, like, well, we could rent this out long term and still make money, but the short term just increases the revenue. And I think that's hopefully what makes the banks feel comfortable to lend on the new, or appraise it for a much higher value in 24 months.
Totally. Yeah. And I think another way I've heard of folks doing this is they'll master lease the units that are going to be Airbnb. And so they'll have another entity that will master lease and guarantee that they're going to pay them as long-term tenants. And then the bank's happy with that. I've heard that this is a little bit different application, but it seems similar.
That's a great idea. So what you're saying is almost like the arbitrage aspect of it, where you have somebody that, like, it's not exactly that, but somebody would have a master lease and then get
same
permission.
thing. Yeah.
Oh, they would get permission to rent it out. Oh, very cool. Yeah. It's a good idea.
So I have I have a friend that is, he's essentially burring an apartment building. Technically he's actually flipping it, but burring it for all intents and purposes. And what he's doing is he's going in, it's right next to a university in the Midwest, and he's going in, cleaning up, rehabbing all the units, making them high end. And he already had, at the time him and I talked, a company that was going to master lease the whole thing and pay X amount per month. And then he was going to allow that company to Airbnb it. So yeah, they're arbitraging an entire apartment building basically.
Wow. That's creative right there. Very cool.
Right.
Sweet. Well, it sounds like a cool project. And you sent me the deck for it, and there's definitely it's an ambitious one for sure. But I think I like the end vision of it. I think that it's pretty clear, and there's some pretty solid upside. Right on. So jumping into the end of it here, we got a few questions to ask you guys. It's always every podcast has their end of the show questions. I always feel like they're a good way to get to know people a little bit. So first one, what do you think is your guys' secret sauce that allows you to be competitive and do what you're doing?
That's a great question. I would say that we have an unwavering belief in our own abilities. I don't know if that's false, if that comes from some false place that doesn't even exist, but we just do. And I feel like I always feel like,
Doesn't matter.
yeah, I feel like the kind of thing is like, why not us? That's how I've always approached it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that gives us a competitive advantage. I don't know if it's a placebo effect, but so far it's worked, right? And in order for us to just keep moving forward, I've been like, hey, I think I can do that too. If this person's making this amount of money or buying these investments, it's not an arrogance thing. It's just like, I think that I can provide enough value to people around me to help people, that people want me around them. And then in turn, you kind of fail your way forward, so to speak. And I've been in enough circumstances that I feel like, oh, I can handle that. And I feel comfortable that I could learn that. And if I don't know enough now, that I could put in the time to learn it. But I'll let you have in there too.
Yeah, this is a complex one. I could probably talk for the whole show or like an hour on this. It's like back in the day, I guess, like as a kid, everyone can probably relate to this, is like you go to school and you take tests, right? And you get grades back. Like when I got that first A, I was like, okay, that was hard, but I did it. And then it's like, all right, let's see if I can get straight A's. And then when I first got straight A's, I was like, dude, this is doable. Like you can be the straight A student, and like, that can be nerdy or whatever. But like for me, it was like the carrot dangling above my head is like, okay, you don't have to take your finals if you get an A in this class. I'm like, well, I hate taking tests, so I'm just going to get straight A's. And that's just what I did. And that's just bringing it way back to school. But I think it's just this internal drive factor that like, it's really hard to kind of put a, put a tack on it and say like, hey, this is the reason why we're internally driven. I just hate being told no. And I am super competitive. Like I hate losing, dude. When I was a kid, I used to play this board game, Sorry. And it was like, you would go around the board and people would knock you off the board. Dude, I would literally, same with youth basketball, I would freaking cry when we lost games. Dude, I sucked. But like I would take it all out on me. And I don't know what it was. And I would just lose my mind. I was in the 6th grade and my coach, his dad's like, dude, talking about it. He's like, is your kid okay? And he's like, yeah, dude, he just hates to lose. And it's a very weird thing. I heard a podcast recently, and I want to talk about this topic or theme. It's Rich Fettke. He was recently on the Bigger Pockets podcast. He was on Robert Leonard's podcast as well. He's a real estate investor. He's done X Games, like action sport guy. He had a scare of melanoma, and he thought he had like 6 months to live. So he and his wife like studied real estate, and when he was going to pass, he was basically like, you'll have at least this strategy to become wealthy and sustain yourself while I'm gone. And he talked about this concept of your inner gremlin. And he's like, everyone has this. It's your inner voice that tells you that you can't do something, or it's your like defense mechanisms, like warning you that danger's ahead. And that he says sometimes this gremlin will tell, like these warning signs go off so much so that people don't do anything. Like, oh, you won't be successful in this, or it's going to take too much time. You shouldn't invest in this because it's going to take 65 years. The value of dollars isn't going to be worth anything down the line anyways. Why go do this? You're not good enough. You were raised in poverty. Like you're anything you can think of about your situation. It's like that inner voice. And we all have this thing, but when you're able to control that and tame that gremlin to be on your side and like kind of like transform your thoughts into positive thoughts, or at least like understand and recognize that the gremlin is talking and you shut it up. And you're like, nah, man, that's just the BS talking. I can get through this. XYZ guy has done this. I can certainly do this. I think that was the coolest thing for me. And I was like, I'm learning that it's a mental game, and you can have good days and bad days, but as long as you like do things for yourself to keep those endorphins up. Cory and I are huge into working out, right? And like you wake up, get the endorphins going, and it just, something about that clears your brain and it allows you to go attack the next task and just keep doing it. But once again, you could just bring it back to the fact that I hate losing, and I just literally like will do anything to win. I've seen someone else win. I'm like, that guy's not smarter than me. Like, how can I figure this out? If you have YouTube and all these things that you can study every day, it's in the palm of your hand, dude. Like you can be successful, and a lot of it's free, which is crazy. So that's my soapbox. But
love it, dude. That's awesome.
Nice. I like it. Yeah. That's a great soapbox. I mean, you're completely right. It's possible for anybody these days. I mean, even my buddy Tom, who's the one that's doing the bookkeeping for us, I always joke because like every time I hang out with him now, he always wants to talk business stuff. And like 3 months ago, it wasn't like that. But he's kind of seen it, and he's like, we're always like, bro, it's like you took the right deal. You made the choice. You've seen the other side, and now you're obsessed, right? You need to get out of the machines. Great. But awesome. All right. One more for you guys. What is your guys' craziest real estate story? And this can be, X-rated. It can be like, insane, whatever. Like, I mean, I don't know. We've had people talk about finding bags full of homemade sex toys. We've had like one where one of our sellers got abducted from a closing, which I told in your guys' show. We've had all sorts of stuff.
I don't know how crazy. Okay, first of all, so thanks for setting those ones up. They're not that crazy compared to the ones we just talked about. But I do have a interesting. So when I bought my first investment property, I was house hacking at the time, and I never knew that you were supposed to fix properties up. And that kind of goes back to like not having the fear. Like I just was like, all right, I'm just going to buy this. Didn't know that I was supposed to fix it up. So I like got in this property and I'm like, oh man, this thing's supposed to cash flow $400 or $500 a month. Like that's awesome. Can't wait. And then it's like, no, bro, like it's not doing that at all because the first rainstorm that happened, I got a call from my tenant at 9:00 at night, and they sent me like a video on like a flip phone. Right? I have an iPhone, but it came through on like what looks like a flip phone, and all I see is water just pouring in these windows. Like it's like there's a flood. Like the flood is truly in my upstairs, and I'm like. I'm sitting to myself like, what the fuck did I just get myself into? Like, why did I buy real estate? I'm freaking out. I'm like, I have to burn the house down. It's going to be flooded. There's going to have so much mold. Long story short, I ended up figuring it out that I just had to replace the windows and dry it out and get some mold remediation done. But like the thought of like just not knowing anything and going into it. And I can't tell. I had another story at the same property. I had water was just like the tub was just like disintegrating and water was just coming through the tub into the basement. And this is all me just not knowing that I had to fix stuff up. I'm like, oh, I guess the property looks good. So then I redid the bathroom, $5,000, redid another bathroom, $5,000. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting a lot less calls now. I get it. You're supposed to fix stuff up, and then you don't get all these calls. So that is
You forgot the first R, man.
Yeah, I know.
You got the first R.
Dude, yeah, it was really, really bad.
I don't have literally anything close to that because I lived vicariously through you on that one. And then, we've had our own issues with the properties we own together. But we had one tenant issue. It was just like kind of strange, actually. Like we were self-managing at the time. We just finished this big, I guess it was a fix and flip, but we didn't flip it actually. So not a fix and flip. We ended up keeping the property, but it was a big rehab for us. We put like 60 grand into it, complete gut. And we hired this new tenant. She came with her daughter and they were complaining that they couldn't find any housing because the rental market was so high. And she ended up telling us like the budget that she had, and it was ended up being $2,700 a month. And we were thinking we were only getting $2,200 a month for this place. So we were like, all right, sure. But it has to be a 2-year lease. So we got her to sign a 2-year lease at $2,700. Cory and I are high five and fist bump. We're like, dude, holy shit, I can't believe we did this. And the next day, the day she moved in, we get a laundry list of things that need to be fixed. Can you paint this? Can you do this? We just fixed the whole place up. She even sent us a picture of her foot after she stepped in dog poo and said, hey, I need you to contact the neighbors. This dog poo in our backyard is unacceptable. I'm like, oh, no. Lady, first of all, get your dogs out of my face. You don't need to send me your foot. And I'm not going to contact the neighbor to tell them about the dog poo. It's like, you're now their neighbor. Go knock on the door. And like, we told you they had dogs. She asked us if we could put up a fence, just like nothing like, we didn't get abducted. There were no aliens or anything like that. No one got killed on our property, but just like the audacity of some people to send you things and ask. Once they sign on the dotted line and pay you, they think they can literally ask for the world. Yeah. And that was a hard thing. We're like, we're self-managing now. Like, we gave it a year.
We're hiring property managers.
We hired a property manager. Yeah. We are not self-managing anymore. Just because of all the war stories we've heard and a lot of other reasons. But
oh man.
It's the big red flag with tenants is desperation. If someone's desperate for your property, whatever, if they're willing to pay all this money up front, all these sort of things, always.
Yeah, we learned that ourselves.
Yeah. We haven't. I mean, we were
Yeah.
pretty good at. I mean,
So.
all things considered, she's doing great now. But it's just like those things that we were afraid to screw up. We're like, you know what? We're scared, but let's just do it anyway. And it ended up. You end up coming through on the other side of all those things. You just do. You're like, it's as long as you just keep going, you end up coming through on the other side. And I genuinely remember the feeling, like walking around my neighborhood, calling like a contractor, maybe someone that I knew. I was like, how much is this going to cost? I had no money. I just spent all of my money on this property. So it's like, I was so scared. And then like, you come around 3 years later, the property's appreciated by $100,000. It's stable. I fixed everything. It's like in that moment, I had no idea that I was going to be able to make it through. And then you just kind of like, you just fail yourself forward. And that's what we felt is the best way to go about it. And I'm sure we'll have more horror stories in the next things we suck at.
You need to go through this stuff to be able to grow and to scale. Like I firmly believe that you have to be able to. These war stories are all. That's the reason you guys ask. Like it's part of the game, and you have to go through it because it balances you and gets. It's like, all right, I'm not going to make that mistake next time. This is how I trained my tenant to communicate with me, and now that's my communication for all future tenants. I know how to handle it. He knows we have to fix our properties. You're not just going to buy a property undervalued and just let it ride because it's going to cost you more money over time anyway. So these little things you learn over time, and it sets you up for these bigger deals because you're not going to make those little mistakes anymore. And by overcoming those, once again, mental thing, you're like, dude, I can tackle this. Like it's no worries. I did this with a job, 3 other businesses. Like I don't care. Throw whatever you got at me, throw it at me, and we're just going to figure it out.
Totally. Yeah. And if you're not making the risk, you're not going to win anything, right? Everything's got to be, that's why you said that's why we have the horror stories, because we're taking the risk, we're diving into things, and it makes way better like stories and profits when you're looking at it 3 years later. And like you just said, hey, the property's worth $100,000 now or $100,000 more. It's like, yeah, you don't care about that couple extra $1,000 you had to spend during the renovation or when you had a flood going on or the 20 extra bucks of rent you didn't get or whatever. So
yeah, that's exactly right.
Oh man. Did we lose Mike?
Oh yeah.
We may have.
Huh.
Oh, he's coming back.
He's coming back.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. We're at actually a good breaking point if you want to wrap it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you were saying some money stuff there and just cut out, and I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
no, I got it all. They're there.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we'll edit all that out. Awesome. Well, I love it though, guys. Like you're doing it. What you described there is like, the epitome of starting out as a real estate investor. I know Dan and I can both heavily relate to that. We're being in the exact same boat where you're trying to figure out how the hell you're going to pay for stuff, what's going to look like, and all those sort of things. So no doubt that you guys will do very well since you've overcome that part, which is, I think, where most people fail is they get to that. And then they're just like, you know what? I don't want to do this again. And then so they don't try. And hence they don't even get the economy of scale you can get with real estate. Right on, guys. So go ahead. Let's tell us a little bit more about your podcast really quick, and then also where people can find you if you have other ways that you want people to connect with you.
Yeah, so our podcast is called The Weekly Juice. Kind of think of it as like each week you're getting your cup filled up with some knowledge from us. And we release episodes every Wednesday. We interview successful entrepreneurs, business owners, real estate investors, kind of to get to know their story, highlight the trials, tribulations, the successes, failures, systems, motivations, everything that comes along with that. And then we share our own journeys and our own journey towards financial freedom. And the thing that I like about our show the most is because we've never claimed to know everything. And I think that we just want to be our authentic selves, talk to cool people, and hopefully people in other areas can relate to what we're going through because I feel like we're pretty relatable guys. So that's kind of the long and short of it. You got anything to add on to that? We're you can social media too, right?
Yeah, we're heavy on social. Instagram's our biggest platform. You can find us at Weekly Juice Pod on Instagram, and we post daily content, tips and tricks, whether it's investing, real estate, personal finance, all the above. And then we'll post highlights and clips from our episodes, and then we'll link it in our notes, so that way, or not our notes, in our link tree in our bio, so you can go listen to all the episodes. But that's kind of our main hub, and then wherever you get your podcasts, the Weekly Juice Podcast is where Cory and I are every Wednesday.
Perfect. I love it. So Wednesday. So after you listen to us coming out on Wednesdays, you can listen to these guys. But definitely go give them a listen, everybody. Go subscribe to their show. They run a great show, and they're doing a lot of great things, and they're going to be doing some really great things here in the future, I can tell. If you guys enjoyed this show, please go and subscribe to us wherever you listen to your podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. Even if you don't like it, just go like download all the episodes, delete them off your phone. I don't care. It bumps up the metrics. It's always super helpful. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, I am at Mike_invest. Dan is at InvestorMan Dan. Go ahead and shoot us a DM on there. We always love to chat with people. And besides that, if you want to learn how to start a wholesale off-market investment business, or just, either buy discounted properties, make a shit ton of money, whatever you want to do in real estate, you should go and check out the instantinvestorprogram.com. It's Dan and I's group coaching program where you will get one-on-one direct coaching from both of us, and we can get you to the next level. So instantinvestorprogram.com, go ahead and check that out. Besides that, Dan, any last words?
No, this has been awesome. Super stoked to get to meet you guys, Cory and Ryan. This is definitely one of my favorite interviews so far. Had a blast with you guys. We got to do this again in the future. Another foursome.
You guys are amazing.
Absolutely.
Appreciate. Yeah,
It's our style,
we'll pencil you in for another foursome. But thanks.
I love
you guys.
it.
You guys are
Love it.
awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, we had a blast, guys. It was a
All
pleasure.
right.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Cool. And go check out Dan's OnlyFans account. Thanks, guys.
Enter code JuicePod for a discount.
Exactly.
Thanks for listening. Please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And check us out at collectingkeyspodcast.com for tips and guides on starting your own real estate investment and wholesaling business.